Okay. Hey, Mariko. Hey, everybody. We are here today. This is Mariko, one of my pregnant clients. And Mariko has a really interesting story that I wanted to share with all of our prenatal mamas out there. Mariko actually came to me during the pandemic. So she has been completely online since the beginning doing Pilates. She's learned Pilates online, which it works. It works. But she came to me with some back pain and back pain from her first pregnancy, which she's going to tell you about. And then during the pandemic, she got pregnant again, which is amazing. And so she started with, having her toddler and restoring her back from the first pregnancy, and then getting pregnant again and entering pregnancy in a new way with new information and new strength. And it's been amazing to see how this pregnancy is better for her. I think she'll say that, and I'll have her talk about that. And I just want to share her story, or have her share her story with you all. So thank you, Mariko, for being here. I'm so happy to have you. I love you as a client. You are like a good student, and you're so aware, and you really dive into the work. So tell us what happened in your first pregnancy with your back.
So yeah, I got pregnant. It was 2018 because I had my daughter in 2019. Everything was pretty textbook, but until there was early in my pregnancy, I just did something like a regular everyday movement. I bent down to pick something up and my back locked up, and I was kind of just down and out for the whole weekend. And I was like, that's really strange. I never had this before. I've heard of sciatic pain. I think up until that point, not that I took my body for granted or anything, but it's sort of everything worked fine. I never really thought about pain in my body or what pregnancy can do to my body or my core or anything like that. So it was kind of shocking to actually be in a situation where I was like, it hurts to walk. I can't touch my toes. I was somebody that did yoga actively and worked out and commuting. So I was an active person. So to all of a sudden be pregnant very early, though, I think this was in my first trimester, to go through that to the point where I'm like texting my husband on the couch, I'm sitting on the couch, I sat down, I can't get up, and something like clicked funky. I ended up going to work, and I remember a coworker being like, maybe the baby's pushing on a nerve. And I was like, the baby's not even a pound. Like, what is going on? So that was something I didn't, at the time, I didn't really have any knowledge of that. Like, people were like, oh, see a chiropractor. And I was like, you know what? It kind of got better on its own, but it was always there in some capacity. I learned to just live with it and work with it and kind of walk in a way that was probably not the best, but just, I worked around it basically. And I did light stretches. I was like looking stuff up online. So that was there until I gave birth. And I remember thinking like, all right, when I give birth, I asked my my OB/GYN, I was like, I have this pain. They're like, yeah, it's like you have all this relaxin in your body. Your body is like stretching out, like these simple movements, you can kind of like go out of, alignment and stuff. Again, I didn't think too much about it. I was like, I'll stretch at night. I did, sciatic stretches I found on YouTube, just different things like that, which it definitely helped. I did cow every day, but nothing intensive or super helpful. It was just alleviating some pain. I still couldn't touch my toes. Not that like you can at the end when, I don't know, maybe some people can at the end of their pregnancy, but it was that sort of thing. Had my daughter in April 2019. The pain got less, but it was still there. Now it just felt like it was weird. It just felt like there was just something like not clicked in that area at all. Like it was there. I was aware of it. Maybe it didn't lock out of place and make me like on my back for a few days, but it was there enough to the point where I was like, I bent down. It was just like, whoa, like I just felt my right side all the time. So that was my, yeah, whatever it is, sciatica, like something.
So it's so interesting because first of all, it happened very early on in your pregnancy. And to your point, there's no baby pushing your pelvis out, making your pelvis stretch at that point. There's not really, relaxing really doesn't kick in till later. So who knows? I mean, it's a very interesting, I don't know if anybody was able to tell you why, but I guess the point here is pregnancy from the get-go, for anybody who's newly pregnant, starts to shift your body, period. It starts to change your relationship with your body, your body in the world. And it can be surprisingly, like you said, you didn't have pain before, you trusted your body completely, you were very active, all of these things. And then all of a sudden, you're different. And this is pregnancy, right? So, and then it was a lasting difference, right? We're never the same after having a baby. We really aren't. Even, I think we get back. I think we can. I do believe we can, because I feel that I did. I remember that when I had my first, it was very like, I'm so used to being completely in my body and being able to do what I want to, and not have access to certain things was very challenging, but I was able to get back to a place. And I think that what happened, right, is, so the next part of the story is that it lingered, it stayed, it wasn't as acute, but now you had something that had changed.
Right.
So when you started doing then Pilates, you started in August of 2020 or July of 2020? This is about a year later, maybe. What
Was it
How old was Emmy when you started? She was like
I almost feel like
something
maybe it was like May,
okay.
June.
Okay. So you started doing Pilates, and what happened there?
So with also postpartum body, not fun. If people bounce back online, I've seen it on Instagram, like I did not. So I remember, being recommended to, start Pilates and all this stuff. And all I could equate to that area of my body feeling like a bowl of jello. Like, I'm relatively, always like a thin person or whatever, but it was just that area. I was like, there's no way this is gonna work. Like, there's like that little thought in the back of my head where I was like, I don't know, because when I like do this now, like that whole area is like moving in a different way. What I did notice when we did start doing Pilates was how much I didn't engage that area of my body, how much I left my body vulnerable to injury, and how much I probably did other exercises not correctly, or didn't and wasn't corrected actually from whoever I was doing the exercise from too, because they're just seeing one aspect of it, but not everyone. I'm just saying, like, it's a different mindset too. Like, I remember doing my first Pilates class with you, and breathing, and I was coming from a place of like yogic breathing. And I had just finished, another yoga training with someone else where it's very like you're breathing in and expanding your belly out and da da da. And here I was, it's like you breathe in and like you keep your core engaged. I was like, what? I was like, what? It was like a reversal of sort. And I was like, but after working that way, all of a sudden, a week later, 2 weeks later, I remember sitting, it was definitely going into the spring now, because I have a vivid memory of being with my daughter on the first like sunny day, and we laid out a blanket on the front lawn. And I remember sitting up taller. I remember not letting my belly hang out. And that weakness that I felt, that before having a baby, that area of your body is just intact. Like, it's almost like you take it for granted. Like, it's like toned. My body was, pretty toned before having a baby. So that was just there automatically. And then after having the baby, like the landscape of your body shifts. Something that you had to counterbalance all the time is now gone again. And then the pain that I had. So then it was like, it felt like I was living with like I don't know, like a gaping hole there or something, like just this area that wasn't filled up correctly.
Yes.
So that was like like something I noticed right away. With all of a sudden I was standing in a way that I was engaging my core, and the core that I thought I lost too, because I was like, there's nothing here anymore. I was like, I can't even, I felt like at the time after I had Emmy, and I started like a year later, of like postpartum. So that was like a whole year. I did jump back into work and commute and all that stuff, but that area was still weak, and that area was still a sore spot for me to even like address. Like I fit back into my clothes, but I was like, that doesn't look like my body. So right away, I just noticed that difference where things were just getting like tucked back in. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like I'm just standing here. And instead of this, yeah, like if I have my clothes on, it looks like, oh, wow, you bounced back. Like you look great in your jeans. And it's like, you know what you see, on a day-to-day basis. But for me to actually feel that way finally, where it's like, no, that stuff is staying in here. Like it's not going out here anymore. And that's just I think that's relearning how to breathe, relearning how to work that area that got transformed, because it's like a transformation that your body goes through. Like you're breathing and you kind of can't engage the core, or actually you can. Now I'm learning that you can engage your core while you're pregnant and growing. But
Yes.
when I was pregnant with Emmy, I didn't even know how to engage my core. And just really quickly, because it's just coming to me as we're talking, was last week you had said something to me and we were doing cat cow, and you caught me. You were like, don't let that belly hang to the ground. And I was like, oh my God, like in that moment in my head, I was like, how many times when I was pregnant with my daughter
Yeah.
did I just let that area go?
Yeah.
And then you have this pain. Also, another thought that came to me, I was wearing a belly band very early on in that pregnancy. This pregnancy, I have not put that on once.
Right. Wow. That's
Um,
amazing. I love it. So did you feel, I think you also felt the back strengthen, you were able to resolve the sciatic pain to a certain extent, right?
right.
Did that happen during the first, and now you're not really, so I want to talk about, so you talked about feeling the gaping hole, which a lot of us feel, the avoidance. This is a typical issue with just anybody, period. You leave the core alone, you don't understand it. And then so
Right.
you don't pay attention to it. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And especially if you have kids and then you have a baby hanging out and those muscles are stretched, it's very hard. Now they're here. And now you're going from before you didn't understand them when they were here. Now they're out here and you have to get them from here back into here, just back into normal. And then you're trying to actually tone them in a way that would be more supportive of that. So you started learning that. You felt that you were stronger. You felt that, like you said, it was connected back in. I love that. The back pain started getting better. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you started to understand how to work when, because I know as we would go along, there would be moments where it's like, okay, I felt it again this
Right.
week, but then you would do your stretches, and stretches isn't but it's more strengthening, right? This is the piece that I think Pilates has brought to me, is it is more about a strengthening than just stretching into things, right? So that those areas
That
can.
was another thing, like another mindset that I had to get used to. Um, that I think
Did a
about
lot of
now in
yoga.
the day-to-day stuff, where I was like, even a cat cow, where you're like, no, like be mindful about it, like like act like you're in some sort of, it's like slower. I forget the word. I can't think of the word that but instead of, I drop into things and I'm like, oh, I'm stretching, instead of like using my muscles to kind of control the action.
Yes, yes. Being
So
more conscious and
yeah.
more connected to the movement instead of just falling into it.
Yeah.
So now I want to, wrap up here with just the last. So you're here in your pregnancy. It's interesting now, like you said, you know how to engage your core. You
Right.
know that it's possible to use those muscles during pregnancy. So I think that's a
Right.
big misconception that people have about working out while pregnant or doing Pilates while pregnant. It's like, that doesn't go away. Those muscles haven't disappeared. They're
Right.
stretched out. You can still engage them. They're in a longer form, and that has helped support you right through this time being pregnant. And you've told me that you're not having you don't come. It's interesting because it's almost like when you weren't pregnant,
Yeah.
you would have more episodes in a way of like, okay, the back is off a little, and then we'd reset it. But during your pregnancy, we haven't really seen those episodes. Every time I meet with you, it's sort of like everything's good. So that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah. And I think also just knowing how to do some exercises and incorporating them, because that was, that's another piece. You can do something for 30 minutes or 40 minutes with somebody, but it's not a band-aid. It's sort of like if you could do 5 minutes every day.
Yes.
Too, that's another thing that I had to work into my schedule, because then having a baby, I mean, having a toddler running around and, being pregnant and working and all of that stuff, you're like, do I have 5 minutes? But when it's important because I really, really don't want to feel like how I felt.
Right, right, right.
And
Yeah.
that living with pain, I mean, and this is sort of on a smaller scale, I know people live with much greater pains, but it's not fun at all. So having a tool, which Pilates has given me so many tools to work with, and I feel like every session I'm constantly learning something new too,
Yes.
that clicks in a little bit deeper than the week before,
Mhm.
because you're integrating it into your body now. So now it's making more sense. Like the
Yes.
stuff that I used to have to sit there and think about constantly, where I'm like, is my core engaged? Like that piece isn't there anymore. So now it's like,
Yes.
make sure you're moving into the movements more consciously, instead of just putting your arm out to just get in that pose. So it's nice because it's also into like being, it's meditative in a way, because you're being mindful about
Mhm.
it, but you're also, working your muscles in a way that for me, like for postpartum, it's the only thing that I've enjoyed and that has stuck. Because
Mm.
after I had Emmy, obviously you want to get back into shape. You want to feel like your old self. Nothing that I used to do prior felt good to my body anymore. Like I
Mhm.
tried to run again. I tried to do yoga, which yoga is not, so it can be, energetic, but nothing, I couldn't stick with anything.
Right.
It didn't resonate. And the first time I did the Pilates session, I was like, did I just work out? Like it felt like, did I just do something? I don't know, And then the next day I was like, wait a second, I'm sore. How am I sore? Like it felt so gentle at the
Mm.
same time, but like it's I don't know, I feel like it's such a nice compliment to for pregnancy and postpartum, because you're not like um it's not this like super physical. I guess it can get super
Yes.
physical, and I'm excited to see how that goes after I have a baby, and like learning all these new tools and seeing, where I can go with it in terms of pushing myself. But it just felt like a good match.
Yes, I
With
love that. Those points are so important. Pilates, depending on the Pilates, I really
Right,
can't speak to other people and the way they teach it, but it does meet you where you are, and it's supportive. It's a partner with you. It's not like a coach or certain types of exercises want you to push, want you to,
right,
and that is the last thing you should be doing after when you're healing,
right,
and postpartum, I just also want to note that you came to this a year postpartum. Some people think, I've had clients say, oh, I need to do this right away. I need to get my body back. And if I miss that window, then it's over. Not true at all. You could be 5 years postpartum and never have really brought yourself back, right? We've been stretched out and we did
right,
not bring our energy back. It is also about alignment and supporting the spine and having that energy source closer to you, because your life, and I think as you've noted, it's like as you're moving into, you have a reason to do 5 minutes a day because you get it. You know what it's like to be a mom now. You don't have any extra energy. And when baby number two comes, this is essential. You have to be a powerhouse, and you better be, like you said, you can't be living in pain. There's no way you're going to be able to thrive as a mother when you're in pain, because you're not taken care of. There's a drain, and then you've got these other beings to take care of. So I love that you've realized that and you've committed to it, and it's so wonderful. I love talking with you about this, Mariko. Thank you
thank
so
you,
much for
thank
being
you.
here. Is there anything else that you want to quickly add before we wrap up? I love this. It's so enlightening.
um I mean, I just, for me, like again, it's just it has been like a perfect complement to, postpartum, to my pregnancy. Now to be able to engage my core, like, and physically see it too. Like I'm 26 weeks and I'm like, look, I could like kind of, not that I can make my bump disappear, but it's sort of like
Yes, you
there's
can.
muscles in there that's working, where I used to like I would just let things hang out. And um, to be able to feel strong while you're pregnant too, it makes you feel so much better.
Yes. Yes.
Just having, you know, I felt like I was taken over by an alien my first pregnancy, where it was like the pregnancy was taking over me, where now I feel like, it's like I still feel like me, which is a nice thing.
That's amazing.
And I'm excited to, I don't know, like my postpartum period with my first was not the most comfortable. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of like get through that phase with this in my life. I feel like it's going to make a big difference.
I love it. That's so awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks.